Hello and welcome to the session. I am Fabio, a specialist solution architect here at AWS Energy and Utilities. Today, we are going to be discussing about EV charging, and specifically, we're going to be focusing on data and insights. In EV charging business, data and insights are fundamental to better understand your business, to reduce the cost of your operation, and generally speaking, to increase the return on investment. We're going to be discussing on the AWS services which are relevant for the business to reduce the cost of your operations, go faster to market, gain elasticity, and eventually help you to grow your business. Let's begin. EV charging is a complex business which revolves around many different data sources. You have devices, you have customers and end users, you have your infrastructure. You need to make sure you can collect all the relevant data at all time. You need to have a steady and reliable ingestion pipeline that enable you to gather all the relevant data at all time. That's the first step. Once you have that in place, you need to make sure that all the data that's being ingested is at a certain level of quality that you can rely on, because then you can base your decisions upon that data. So you need to make sure that you have the tools and the controls in place to clean that up. Once you have the data in place, you can start to focusing on leveraging that data to forecast the future. When you need to take decisions, you just don't need to look at the current state of your infrastructure, but also at your future state. In order to do this, you need to be able to create models that are able to forecast the future state of your infrastructure, the customer usage, the position of the cars, and generally speaking, the status of your business. Once you have your model in place and you are getting those forecasts out, then you need to have the tools to properly visualize them and start to get the insights to better understand how your business is running and specifically to take decisions based on the forecasts that the data and the models are going to output. Let's begin with gathering the data step. First of all, we need to identify which is going to be the destination of all the different data sources that we are going to get the data from. The best candidate here is Amazon S3, which is our storage layer. This layer enables you to store data at scale at cheap cost. It's an object-based storage and really is the best choice when it comes to storing raw data coming from different sources that needs to be reworked or cleaned up. Once you have the storage in place, we can try to understand how to integrate all the other different data sources. One set of data sources are probably already existing, coming from existing infrastructure, so a platform that it's already running, coming from cost, from your financial department, or web analytics, from your web applications. This type of data can be integrated in different manners with different services. Here we have two examples. One is using REST APIs. In order to host REST APIs, you can use Amazon API Gateway, which is a serverless, which means that you don't need to manage any serverless option to host REST APIs, which you can fully manage and configure directly in the AWS console. The other example is Amazon Kinesis. Kinesis is a suite of streaming services which enable you to buffer and write data directly in S3. You can integrate with Kinesis using clients or directly leveraging Kinesis if you are using an AWS to AWS type of connection. Other type of data sources might not be already present in your infrastructure or solution. One example, if you need to have access to a public, reliable source of data when it comes to public charging infrastructure in Europe, you might not have access to it. But you can get access to that type of data by leveraging AWS Data Exchange. AWS Data Exchange is a marketplace for data where you can browse all the providers that are on the marketplace. You can purchase their services, and AWS Data Exchange is then responsible to get the data on your behalf from the partner and get it directly to your S3 data layer. This is, again, fully managed, so you don't need to worry about compute or managing servers. A typical example in this case is eco-movement, an EV charging data point storage system and partner, which is able to provide you a reliable source for your public charging infrastructure. There are many types of data providers which are present already in the data marketplace. And you can, for example, have access to Foursquare, or you can also have data access to geolocation type of data, satellite imagery. There are a number of providers which are able to help you. Finally, if you need to connect EV chargers at scale, you want to evaluate leveraging AWS IoT technology. AWS IoT is a suite of services which enable you to connect and control devices at scale. They are all fully managed services, so you don't need to worry about servers or managing the patching. You just need to pay for what you use, and it will automatically scale. AWS IoT Core is the main component where you have an MQTT broker. Finally, you also have AWS IoT Greengrass, which is an edge service. It's a runtime that you can install on a gateway, or you can install also inside your EV charger to deploy and manage the lifecycle of components that you have at the edge. The components then will send a message to AWS IoT Core in MQTT. From AWS IoT Core, you can send messages directly to S3, setting up an IoT rule, or you can buffer the messages into bigger chunks, leveraging again Amazon Kinesis, specifically Amazon Kinesis Firehose. Once the data is in place from all your different sources, you can start thinking of leveraging that data. In order for you to leverage that data, you want to probably extract the data, reorganize it, clean that up, and store it somewhere else. You can do that by leveraging AWS Glue. AWS Glue is a suite of services which enable you to manage the data at scale. One of those services is AWS Glue Studio, which is a UI designed to help you leverage the full potential of AWS Glue. You can then create in AWS Glue Studio your data pipeline directly and visually, leveraging existing palettes and functions that you can combine in order for you to extract, transform, and load the data that you just stored. Once your pipeline is in place, you want to start to understand which are the steps which help you to keep your data quality bar high. One step is to leverage AWS Glue technology and tools to help you to clean the data up and help you to do so automatically. One service that we just released, and it's currently only in preview, is AWS Data Glue Quality, which you can leverage in your data pipeline to automatically detect which are the rules to keep your data clean. It will not only help you to just understand which are the best rules for you to keep your data quality up, but it will also evaluate those rules by itself, helping you to understand which is the status of your data quality. Another interesting tool for you to leverage when it comes to data quality is AWS Glue Data Brew. AWS Glue Data Brew, it's a UI tool, so it's a no code, fully managed again, which helps you to implement standard cleaning up functions. You can directly from the UI integrate the data sources that you have, apply the functions, and write the data somewhere else once it's cleaned up. Thanks to AWS Glue Data Brew, you can leverage its interface to select the relevant data sources, select the functions. In this case, let's say that we want to do a join, and directly deliver the join from the UI. So you can have directly a view of the joined data from the UI. And it's not just applying functions, it's also evaluating current existing data sets. You can select a column and AWS Glue Data Brew will show you which is the distribution of the column and few insights which really help you out to understand which is the status of that dataset and specifically the data quality of that column. Once the data is in place and it's cleaned up, you want to start thinking of how that data and those values will evolve over time. This is something that can be done by implementing AI/ML models and create them based on the current data that you have. Creating new models is not always easy. Sometimes it's tricky and you need to have expertise in your company to do it. We know that a lot of companies and AWS customers are struggling to have the proper resources in place to train and create their own models. In order for us to help customers to create their own models and also to try to democratize the access to AML, we launched Amazon SageMaker Canvas. Amazon SageMaker Canvas is a tool. Again, it's a UI tool, so it's business friendly, no code environment, which enable you to import existing datasets that you have already cleaned up. You can also evaluate the status of that dataset directly in Amazon SageMaker Canvas. And you can create the model to forecast the column that you need or the value that you need directly in SageMaker Canvas. Finally, you can also evaluate the quality of the model before then creating a deploy for that specific model to run then continuously. When it comes to EV charging, forecasting usage sometimes also revolves around leveraging geospatial data because you are focusing on an area or a specific set of stations. In order for you to do that, you need to integrate your models with geospatial data, which is challenging at times. In order for us to help you, we are releasing Amazon SageMaker Geospatial ML, which is a service specifically designed to train and integrate geospatial data in ML models. Amazon SageMaker Geospatial ML enable you to directly access already available geospatial data within the service. Another critical feature is to already providing pre-trained models that you can leverage out of the box. Finally, Amazon SageMaker Geospatial ML provides you a tool, which is a visual tool to analyze and explore the predictions that you already made. Once the data is in place, you want to start using services to visualize all the insights that you're getting from your models and your data. There are a number of services depending on what you want to do. If you want to visualize data on maps, we suggest Amazon Location Service. Amazon Location Service is designed to help you access maps and geolocation data directly in your applications. It will help you integrate with third-party providers, maps providers, and also implement geocoding and reverse geocoding directly in Amazon Location Service. Another critical service is Amazon QuickSight, which is designed to provide you BI dashboard directly integrated with AWS services such as Amazon Athena. QuickSight and Athena, they work together really well. Amazon QuickSight implement the logic to visualize the dashboards and visualize the insights, while Athena is responsible to query the data that you have stored in S3, for example. Athena works with SQL-like queries, so you can directly implement your queries in Athena and visualize the data coming from those queries in QuickSight. If you're thinking of more real-time type of dashboarding, then also evaluate using Amazon Managed Service for Grafana. Let's try to put everything together now. Starting from AWS IoT, which help you to integrate devices at scale and send data back to the cloud. Then we have integration with third-party applications, for example, using Kinesis or API using Amazon API Gateway. And finally, you have the data marketplace, which help you to directly ingest the data into S3 from third-party providers, where AWS takes care of the integration and the data transmission. Then we have our storage layer in S3, which leverage also Glue and Glue Data Brew and AWS Glue Data Quality to take the data, extract it, transform it, clean it up, and store it back again in S3. Then you can also start leveraging Amazon SageMaker Canvas to get the data that you have in S3, work on it, create the models and forecasting models to then leverage this data to understand how the future will look like. Once you have everything in place, you can then create your queries using Amazon Athena directly in SQL. And then you can finally visualize those queries in QuickSight to get your insights. Here you can see a demo that we presented at reInvent on EV charging called Recharge. In this demo, we are getting data from chargers and also from already present platforms to create new insights to understand which is the status of the infrastructure and which is the projected cost in terms of energy providers. In this example, we are evaluating which is the status of the infrastructure leveraging maps directly in QuickSight. We are querying the data already present in S3, and as you can see, we can already have a dashboard to understand which is the load and the cost per kilowatt hour that our infrastructure is delivering. More insights can be visualized directly leveraging Athena and QuickSight. In this case, we are aggregating the consumption and the spend per charger network. And we are doing so by querying the data in two different manners. As you can see, the graphs are directly impacted by the way you are querying the data. Each graph has its own SQL query, which is backed up by Athena. The integration is seamless, so you create the query and you then visualize it in QuickSight. As we mentioned, it's not only about visualizing the current status of your infrastructure, but also to evaluate and visualize which is the future state. In order to do that, you need to implement, as we said, models and forecasts using AWS services. In this example, we are visualizing the current state of the fleet's consumption, but also visualizing the future state of the consumption in the next few months. As you can see in the graph, we also are adding the upper and lower bound to evaluate which is the potential variation coming from the forecast. Again, on insights, you might want to evaluate which is the area that is going to drive you the most return of investment. In this example, we are showing a map on how to leverage the data that you have to understand which are the hot and cold areas where you want to be investing to better plan the location of your chargers. To recap, we have seen how AWS services can help you deliver value in your EV charging business. Specifically, we focused on how to leverage the data and to forecast to take better decisions. AWS services also enable you to run your operations as cheap as possible by focusing on your own business and not worrying about infrastructure, patching, and running servers. This will help you to reduce the amount of operational overhead and really make this business as profitable as possible. Thank you for following along. I hope that you have found this session useful. We have just scratched the surface. We are seeing some of the services which are relevant for the EV charging business focusing on data. But what about security compliance? And what about customer experience? There are also other services which are relevant that I would love to talk about. Please reach out anytime for any question or setting up any session that you would like to have. Thank you again.